Hey guys, so here's part 3 of the 8.4 day 2 notes. Now, before we start this, I would like you guys to go ahead. We will need to mark some things out, so that means you might have to change some of your notes. So those 3 things that I just scribbled out, go ahead and make sure you do that. So it was like AE, DB, and then AC. Now, what I want you to do is we're going to put in EB right here, and then DB, okay? Okay, so with this, we are given a rhombus. So the diagonals of a rhombus, ABCD, intersect at E, given that measure of angle BAC is 53 degrees and DE equals 8, find the indicated measure. So we already know this is a rhombus. That means this polygon has all the characteristics of a parallelogram and a rhombus. So there are 9 characteristics we can use to solve for the indicated measure. So the first one is the measure of angle DAC. Now I'm going to go ahead and label that. We know it's an angle and it's this part, okay? So we need to figure out what characteristic can we use either from parallelogram or rhombus to find that measure. Well, we can actually use the characteristic from the rhombus that states each diagonal bisects a pair of opposite angles. Remember, bisect means it cuts into 2 equal parts. So we know that basically measure of angle BAC is going to be 53 degrees. Then we definitely know that DAC is also 53 degrees because they were bisected, meaning that they were cut into 2 equal halves, so they should be exactly the same, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and write that, the explanation, so you guys have a better understanding. So basically diagonals bisect. Opposite angles. Okay, now our next thing, let's find measure of angle ADC. So I'm going to also indicate what that is. So we start from A, we go to D and C. So it is this part here, okay? Now what we can do is notice that we're taking the entire angle. So what we know what angle A is because we have basically 53 and 53. So we can say measure of angle A. We can add those 2 together. 53 plus 53. And that will give us basically 106. To find measure of angle D, we know that consecutive angles, remember angles that are right next to each other, they are supplementary, so they add up to 180. So to find the measure of angle ADC, we're going to go ahead and take that amount. So we're going to have, I'll just do x plus 106 equals 180. And then we're just going to solve here. So I subtract 106 from both sides. And then I'll get basically 74 here, okay? So this reasoning is consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay. Now let's find the measure of angle AED. So we have AED, so this map here. Okay. So where that green is, well, one thing we know about diagonals, let's look at all the ideas about diagonals, okay? Well, diagonals bisect each other, but that's not going to help with an angle measurement, okay? But we know that diagonals are perpendicular, right? So what does perpendicular mean? Remember, perpendicular means that they intersect at 90 degrees. So these diagonals intersect at 90 degrees. So this is going to be 90. Okay, so our reasoning here, diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, now let's find EB, okay? So it's going to be this mark here. I'm going to change this to blue so it's a little bit easier to. Okay, EB. So now we need to talk about the diagonals once again. Okay, let's kind of go back up. So first, for parallelograms, diagonals bisect each other. Remember that means they cut into 2 equal parts. Well, that's kind of what we want. We would talk about the side of the diagonal. So we know that DE is 8, then EB is going to be the exact same thing. They're going to be congruent. So that means EB is going to be 8. And the reasoning here, diagonals bisect each other. Okay, last thing is we're going to do DB. So that means that we are basically indicating we want DE plus EB. Now we know DE is 8 and EB is 8. So that's just going to give us 16. Okay? And that's not really anything, you're just adding those two segments. So that's not really any of the properties of parallelogram or rhombus, it's just adding those. Okay, make sure if you have any questions, you contact me, and make sure you work on the homework assignment. See you guys later.